Hey there, everyone. Bethany here, ready to do another installment of the Retrain Your Brain show. Um, right now, there's actually a heat wave going in Seattle, so it's quite warm in here. Got a fan on going in the background. Hopefully, that's not causing too much noise. Got a couple of bug bites and just kind of the normal summer fun stuff when things heat up and the bugs come out. With that said, I want to recap briefly. So last week, I kind of kicked this off, looking to just kind of help share my thoughts on how to help people get out of their own way. Because when you get out of your own way and you actually explore, what is out there in the world to offer, so many things happen. When you get your mind upright and get your mind working correctly, this often just leads to a less stressful person in general. And when you're not stressed and you're not worried and you're not anxious, then you're more willing to go and do things you never thought you would do. And that can include, usually leads to better relationships, and better relationships lead to often, doing better at work, or you're finding that thing to make extra money because, again, you're getting out there because your head is screwed on right. And then you make more money. I mean, it just having a level head and getting out of your head, being able to enjoy life, the fruits of it are endless. So hence why, episode 1 started with, owning your reality, being honest with yourself and your situation, and seeing if is there something you think you need to work on, and is it something you can do yourself with some self-help, or do you need to actually go and get professional help? You got to be honest with yourself. I've had someone share, that they were battling with depression and went to a doctor and figured out it was actually a form of bipolar she was suffering from, which is something, again, that's very it's very manageable once you know what it is, what it is with going on in your head. So day 2, I spoke more about alignment. And this is the thought that your head could be saying one thing while your heart's saying another. Or, are you practicing what you're preaching? Are you actually doing what you say you're going to do? There's actually other studies out that say, if you announce your goals, online, or in some kind of public forum, and you get, all the hoorays, we're here for you, that kind of positive feedback could actually hinder you from your goals, because you've already gotten the immediate the immediate feelings of doing something well that people support, doing something good, which will actually put it off. So it's that immediate gratification that can actually hinder a goal. So sometimes, like for weight loss goals and whatnot, sometimes it works better for people if they don't tell anybody, except it maybe major milestones, where they do want to have other people celebrate with them. So, and like I said, I use a journal so that way I can see, like, hey, am I hitting my priorities every day, or am I not? And if I'm not, what's out of alignment with me? So, you find your way to keep yourself in check. So it keeps you in alignment. So today I'd like to address another thing that's going to be hard for some people, because this world has become very, very subjective. Subjective in a way that, we talk about, living your truth, living your reality. And, like I said, I do believe, obviously, in a personal reality, meaning being real with yourself. But the world as a whole has its own, it is what it is reality. There's always going to be, the hard stuff. This is why we have charities, why we go out and help people, because frankly, there's always going to be poor, there's always going to be poverty, there's always going to be war and violence, there's always going to be crazy people. I mean, the people who are going out and, wreaking havoc, they're always going to exist. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't try. I mean, the efforts that people have put into this world are just astounding. I mean, poverty worldwide keeps going down. Violence actually overall is also going down. There's obviously still some hot spots. We are dealing with the jihadi stuff, but even that's finally kind of starting to get, crushed out. But poor Europe is still still has a lot of the repercussions that were coming from all of that. And and dealing with the crisis of two cultures that just do not mix. And that kind of stuff is always going to exist. All we can do is strive to, help our fellow humans and make it better. I mean, the reality of the world is that we all can't be warriors for every single cause out there. But what we all can do is choose those couple of things that we feel really strongly about helping. I give to the American Cancer Society because I like that the well-rounded research doesn't just focus on one thing or another. I mean, to be honest, breast cancer funding, very well funded, thanks to organizations, like Komen and a few others that are big on specifically breast cancer funding. So I typically do the American Cancer Society instead. So again, giving and doing missions and doing, community service projects, all those kind of things help create a better world. But just don't give in to the thought that your reality is the end all be all, because the world has its own reality and we have to live with that and live within that. Again, the fact that, shit's gonna happen and you're gonna come across somebody who can make your entire day miserable, or you can decide that you don't want to let them do that. As they say, you can only control how you react to a situation. And say you disagree with somebody, the minute people start name calling, you lose. That's how it goes. You're never going to sway anybody by making emotional, irrational jargon, calling the other side, evil, or, have no hearts, or just, that doesn't help. That people don't respond to that. It really just makes them resentful, and it makes them feel like, well, obviously you don't even want to try to even hear out the other side. The case of, these poor kids that are getting separated from their families, the separation actually is usually about a month, and it is based on rule of law. And luckily all this outrage has actually stirred, Congress is actually working on ways to fix the situation. But the reality is the reason why they went to zero tolerance is because gang members were bringing kids that were 4 years or under, that were not their kids that they kidnapped, in order that they could bring the kids, because the old policy said, if you had a kid under 4 and under, they would just release you and the child into the public population. And so, it's unfortunate that things like that were happening, and I'm glad that the government is trying to do something to fix that. But again, this just comes back to the reality of the world. If there's a loophole, there's gonna be some kind of jerk who takes advantage of it and screws it up for everyone else, which is exactly what's happened to these really just these unfortunate Mexican families, or Mexican, Hispanic in general, the people who are coming. So just being my point of, the world can be a really shitty place, and you kind of and as much as our particular culture has gone to relativism relative to you and your view world point, you still need to be able to accept that there are just some things that you can't control, that it's just this world and it's human nature. I mean, socialism, very hard to implement because there are always going to be ambitious people. Ambitious people who want to rule things. That's just a plight of human nature. There are just things that just will not work because, we got less aggressive people, you have more aggressive people, you have the ambitious people, and you've got the complacent people. All of this exists, just like, in Nazi Germany. You had the Nazis, obviously this was a Hitler thing, but the vast majority of Germans really didn't want to go around killing people. That's how it was, but unfortunately, those were the people in power, and those were the people that ultimately it matters, because the complacent people just kind of like, whatever, just leave me alone. And so this is the reality of the world, and we have to be able to keep those more aggressive tendencies in check, but you're not going to do that by name calling the other side. You got to have rational, thought out, like, here's the evidence, and be able to have civil conversations about it. But you can only have civil conversations if you can both agree that something is bad or needs fixing, or just be able to have a common ground to begin with, and accept that the other person wants the same goal as you to fix something. Come on. We all want to fix this problem of kids being separated at the border. It's a tragic thing. It's just a matter of, is this what's the solutions? Which frankly, it's changing the law in this case, because it's a law that's making it, and then this zero tolerance policy. So the policy needs tweaking, which, if the reports that I'm hearing is right, we might actually see some movement on that improving, possibly as early as this week, if the outlets that I listen to are correct. I guess we'll find out, because yes, that's a situation that's tragic and needs some help, for sure. But that's what we need, be able to have civil discourse, civil discourse on gun control and what to do about these kids. Maybe, it's not just throwing money at it and thinking that, just adding more laws are going to help the issue. It's coming to the realization that seems to be some kind of a culture problem going on, because it's always these white boy kids. There's no other group doing this. It's always these messed up white male kids. There's definitely something cultural going on with that, and until the other side can be patient enough to talk about it, then the left versus the right, then the other will be more open to hearing possible solutions on gun control. To have a civil conversation, you've got to be civil. You can't just attack the other side, because then you just get resentful and people are, pounding, they just want to take our guns. That's where that comes from, is because the other side, well, one, you've got people saying it, but two, they are just crazy. When they are just giving ultimatums, and if there's no room for compromise, there's no point in talking. So that's the reality of the world, of working with people we have. You got to be able to work with people, which means compromising and being willing to at least listen to the other people without freaking out, which we see time and again. And I'm talking lefts and rights. There's no particular group I'm picking on. We all see this all the time, and on both sides, you see the jackasses all over the place, and that's what they are. In reality. And then you've got those of us in the middle who are just like, people, quiet down on either end of the spectrum. Just stop, so those of us who can actually talk to each other can hear and actually possibly find a good solution. So anywho, that's the point for today. Kind of going on this run of, owning your reality also includes being honest with the reality of the world, and that unfortunately we're going to continue to have problems, and we just all need to do our best to do our little part in trying to make that better. But that also includes being willing to actually hear people out and realizing, not everyone's perfect. I certainly am not. I've got plenty of my own faults. but time and time again, we see people, you know, where they're bringing down others, you know, just over, you know, stupid things, silly, you know, it's just like, no one's perfect. I'm sure I can go through anyone's back history and find something that, you know, the rally people would bring them out on a pole and tar and feather them for it. And they can be the nicest person on the planet. You know, we need to get past that and you know, not throw the first stone as it goes. So anyway, I hope this helps as food for thought and just encourages people to open up a little bit, to have some open dialogue and to see the reality instead of just feeding into, you know, fear and hate and they all hate immigrants, they're all racist, or they're just all idiots and don't understand, or, you know, whatever the argument is. You got to resist those things because, one, it messes with your own heart, and two, it does not lead to a society that will allow open discourse to get to real solutions. If one side can't talk for fear of being beaten. I mean, literally, we've had violent protests go on here in the last few years. All that does is just push down the possibility of compromise and a real solution that could make sense and be responsible. You know, we're the greatest nation on earth. We are. We're the most powerful. There's a reason why we're trying to lead the rest of the world. I mean, we're the most free country, but we're doing a pretty good job of making quite a bit of our population scared to speak out, just because they honestly just don't want to deal with it, not because anything would actually happen. I mean, for Pete's sake, how many people have, you know, talked shit about Trump? You know, you couldn't do that in some other countries. And he's really easy to pick on. Really easy, because he's a pig. So, you know, I would just love to see more civil discourse. More, okay, we're on the same page. We all agree this thing is bad. How can we fix it? You know, and hearing the other side out before just starting the name calling and shutting people down just because you didn't like what they said or how they said it or where they're going with something. I mean, that's a closed mind. That's the definition of a closed mind, when you just will not hear the other side out and think about it rationally. Because, you know what, there's going to be a lot of solutions where not everyone wins. But it doesn't mean we can't keep trying. Definitely want to keep trying. So, again, food for thought, and please leave any messages, any questions, anything to expand upon. I'd love to hear from people. Or tell me about the weather. Like I said, here in Seattle, it's over 80 degrees, and we're having a little heat wave right now. Thankfully, the 90-degree weather was downgraded, because we're not used to that up here. And let me know if you have any questions or would like to add. I will love to bring people on. Soon I'll be moving on to the main purpose of this, which is looking into, you know, ways people have just gotten out of their own way. I just wanted to do this short stint of how do you prepare your brain for getting out of your own way. So I hope you find this helpful, and thank you guys so much for watching, Kevin and Brian and Alex, and can't wait to see what comes of today. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.